The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. The roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and looked down the one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other, as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy, and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there, have worn them really about the same. And that, both that equally lay, and leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing that one way leads to on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Wow, Robert Frost. I mean, people know him as easily one of the best and one of the most well-known poets, probably of this millennium. To be completely fair, he's just built a legacy as an author, as a poet, as a writer. But I just think there's a huge precedence about Robert Frost that people actually aren't aware of. People actually have affiliated him with someone who's born and raised in New England, actually was born in San Francisco and then moved on to New England whenever he was age 11 after his dad passed away. And then growing up, he went into high school, started writing a little bit of poetry, ended up getting into Harvard, but ended up actually having to leave due to actually personal illness and his wife actually getting pregnant. So whenever he left Harvard, he became a farmer. And to be completely fair, he wasn't that great of a farmer. And he also had two children passed away in the midst of while he was farming. So in light of trying to find a better light, he really couldn't. He was writing a few poems and he was getting a few of them published, but he was having problems getting a book published. So for a while there, he couldn't really have much luck. So he actually took him and his wife over to the United Kingdom in England and actually began to look for a better life, look for a life where he could actually find some sort of publishing for a book that he wanted to release. And then actually found a publisher very early on, and then found a very early success as a poet in New England. And then they actually moved back to New England, where actually he began a journey. To be completely fair, he was actually at Amherst College, but kept moving around to a bunch of different universities. He actually did not ever stay in one particular location, especially after World War I. And so from then on begins his legacy, where he began as a professor, began as a writer, began as a poet, and began really just becoming who we know him best as. And so when I look at his life and I look at what he's been through, I just see so much of this poem just right here in his life. I think this poem here, it's so easily representative of just his personal experiences, his trials, his errors, his succeeds, things that he's been good at, and also things that also have been troubles for him. So, like right on at the beginning, to go from San Francisco to New England, right there after his dad passes away, he had a path to choose. Whenever he went to Harvard, and he actually had to drop out just to help him back, aid his illness away, and also his wife was pregnant. That was a path he had to choose. Whenever he was having problems getting his book published and he had to move to the UK, that was a path he had to choose. Throughout his lifetime, he had so many paths he had to choose in order to pursue one thing, to get a book published and find success as a poet. That was all he cared about, and that was what he truly wanted, because that was his passion. Because he didn't, think about it, he was not good at farming. Do you think he enjoyed it? Absolutely not. So I believe he really wanted to be a poet so desperately, so badly, with just a thriving desire just to be a publisher, to be known as a poet, to where he completely picked his life up and moved it away to New England. That's a path not easily taken. There's not many people on this earth that can take themselves, take their life, take their identity, uproot it, and then move it to a place where they absolutely know no one, they have no ties, they have nothing there. That's not a very common thing. And I just believe that it's representative of where we are. We'll go full circle, it's where we are in our relationship with Christ. At one moment, at one time, at one choice, one day, We ourselves had to decide, for those who are believers, today is the day that I'm going to choose to take the path not many taken by. It's not common to see someone literally say, I'm going to go against the stream. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to go against what I'm used to. People take these paths because they're doing it out of what? They're doing it out of faith. And that's just the beautiful thing about the path not taken much by people. That's just how it is. People don't take this path. And so in many paths in my own life, not just salvation, but taking big moves, take leaps of faith. Whenever we move ourselves, for instance, I moved myself from South Carolina all the way to Los Angeles in a leap of faith because I felt that God was calling me to something bigger than myself. God was calling me to something that was going to progress me in my walk with Jesus. He was going to progress me in something that I actually had no ties to, knew no one at, and I did it purely because I felt like this is something that the Lord was telling me to do. Now, when I take this in the grand scheme of the poem, and I know that's a huge stretch to go from moving from South Carolina to Los Angeles, from New England all the way to the UK, and what are we talking about? We're talking about a road not taken by many people, but just the imagery, the content, the theme, all of the metaphorical themes in this thing. It's so beautiful in the grand scheme of just, we see Robert Frost's life come to life in a poem. Isn't that great? I'll say it again. We see Robert Frost's life come to life in a poem. And that honestly is the beauty of just poetry itself, because you can read this and you can say, cool, I'm imagining being in a forest, and I can imagine one path beaten up, taken, always dirty, and then one path not very taken by a few, but it's okay. That's the grand scheme of what it all is. That's literally it. And whenever we apply it to not only our own life, not only to our own current circumstances and everything, it takes a two-dimensional thing on a piece of paper and transforms it into something real, something tangible. And I can go off on this for another 10 minutes, but the Bible, it's a 2D printed something on paper, something that is just words, but it's God's living word. It's breathed. It's something that gives life. John 1:1 says that God is the Word. He was the Word at the beginning, and He is the Word. And so just in the same way, it's something that is taken, two-dimensional and moved through a three-dimensional sense. When I read this poem, I couldn't help but just be moved, because it made me think about not his life, my own current circumstances, and honestly, current and future opportunities that are going to come. So that's what I enjoyed about this poem. Thanks for watching.